Shanti, Shambho, Mahadev. We were discussing on the Kartavya and Karma. Mostly we have explained about the Kartavyas. In the Kartavya, one may have to sacrifice many of his personal desires where again this is in order to teach us about the process of renunciation in a smaller way, in a materialistic way. In Kartavyas mostly many places, many times one has to be submitting oneself. They call it as submissive. Submissive is not one who is not important or not meeting the requirements. Sometimes it is submitting. Submissive is the one who is submitting is submissive. Submissiveness is necessary. If every human being is in the status of submissiveness, in the status of submitting means offering, submitting in the sense offering nivedanam. If that is the way, if we approach, Kartavyas becomes very easy. Imagine now when everyone is like in a state of submissiveness, how beautiful it will be. There will be no differences, there will be no difference of opinions. There may be difference of opinions, but there will not be any calamities, there will not be any problems in the case if everyone is submissive. But as we said, in many of the avataras and many of the tapasvis and many great noblemen, you will find the example. There are hundreds of them in Purana. We have described them from time and again. I'm not again repeating them. They dealt with the problems with most submissiveness in the initial stages. Only when it did not matter, when it did not bring any results, then only they did go for a violence, let us say. But in today's case, it is not like that. The first is violence. Starting with violence, starting with objections and obstructions. As we described 2 classes back about the impatience, how when the mind is agitated and not able to fulfill the requirements or fulfill the desires that they wanted to fulfill, naturally the mind is agitated and the situation becomes different, not able to handle them in the right manner, and the status of submissiveness changes into violence. So one has to be submissive in the execution of kartavyas. Lot of thoughts have to be given to solving any problem. Let it take time. Some certain things are there which time will heal, they say. You have to give enough time to settle down. Disturbed water, it's very difficult to find out what is inside. So, if you allow it to settle down for a while, then it becomes clearer. Same way in our problems also, we always should give, in certain, most of the things, many of the problems, there are certain where immediate attention is required, but otherwise, mostly in kartavyas, when I am talking about kartavya, almost all the kartavyas one has to execute it with the giving enough time for it. That means the mind should not jump into conclusions based on the emotional satisfaction and dissatisfaction. The problem is that we try to execute our kartavyas through our emotions. When one is too happy, they do excessive things. Afterwards they regret, it was a little too much. Same thing happens the other way around also. You react very badly. Then one repents. So we call it as late realization. So, late realization. That means you have to have the right realization at the right time. If that is the way the kartavya is done, we will not be disturbing our karmas. As I told you, it doesn't mean that whatever you think and whatever it comes to has to be fulfilling with all success. It is not necessary. In kartavyas, many things are there. There may be lots of failures, lots of successes. But the failures should be taken in such a stride that we should be in a position to take care of it the next time. And we should analyze what is the result, what is the reason behind the failures. This thoughtfulness is necessary. So, there what happens, the balance is absolutely necessary. If mind is agitated, nothing is possible. That's why I decided to take these lessons. For anything and everything, the non-agitative status of mind is necessary, is what we are finding. You explain it in any way you like. Ultimately it comes to, for each and every activity, a balance of mind, what we call it as balancing of balance, in the sense non-agitative status of mind. That's a very specific clarification for that. There's no question of balancing. Where is it balancing? No adjustments. There has to be absolute solutions for that. So what happens, as I told you, there are we said about the certain obligations have to be met in kartavyas. Sometimes we may have to stretch a little too long. Sometimes we have to do a bit of sacrifice on personal requirements. This all put together. This sacrifice can be done only when a person has got non-agitative status of mind. Otherwise, sacrifice cannot be done. If somebody has to sacrifice one's pleasure for a while, one's time for a while, one's need for a while. For this, what happens? Jnanam is required first of all. Through the jnanam only, he will be in a position to understand, by sacrificing this at this moment of time, or sacrificing this time for somebody, or sacrificing this wealth for somebody, or this happiness for somebody, we can. If it can achieve better happiness, better peace, and better results out of it, investing that sacrifice should be an investment. by sacrificing, by investing that sacrifice, one will be in a position to derive a greater benefit out of it, in the sense a greater peace out of it, greater happiness out of it. This happens in the this to understand this. If one is very selfish and with selfish motives, self-centered only, and he will not be in a position to do a sacrifice. Even though we think sacrifice is that what belongs to us, giving it away is a sacrifice, we call it. That means killing your desire, destroying your requirements, destroying this out there. For the time being, you are shifting that towards the other way. As I told you, by the sacrifice, you will always find, by sacrifice, you will achieve much more pleasure out of it, much more happiness out of it, if it is a true sacrifice. In sacrifice and karma, in both in karma as well as kartavya, nirmamatvam, if one does it with nirmamatvam, that means without any selfishness or without any selfish motive behind it, that means any purpose out of it. When you do this, the kartavya as well as karma, in both cases, you will derive wonderful results. You will derive peace, you will derive non-agitative status of mind, through which you will be in a position to evolve yourself. That means by that we will be executing our karmas through kartavya, executing our karmas in a non-agitative status. In any case, in karmas chapter renunciation comes. So this is in kartavya. So in kartavya, everywhere, I said, detailed last 1 or 2 classes we had been detailing on the kartavyas, what are to be done. By executing the right kartavya dharmically, ultimately to understand, by doing a kartavya dharmically, ultimately will bring the non-agitative status of mind in you as well as people around you, or the situation around you, or the prakriti around you. Everywhere it is required, kartavya. Even in a forest, even in a garden, even in when you are keeping some animals around you. So when you execute your kartavya properly, around you as well as in you, both there will be non-agitative status. If you look after the trees and if you do not disturb the trees, do not disturb the plants, and you do your job without disturbing them, having a balance, with sacrifice, little bit of sacrifice of walking, little this way, that way, may not be, you need not to cut off the plants and trees. If you can do little bit of sacrifice, you get more pleasure out of it, isn't it? You have always that benefit of the trees around, like that. The trees, animals, or human being, or situation, circumstance, for everything the same example can be taken. So one has to understand the kartavya in the right sense, that by executing a kartavya, any human being who is born, he is bound to execute certain kartavyas. There is no one who has no kartavyas to execute. Once he does his kartavyas in the right manner, in the dharmic way, he only will be in a position to execute his karmas in the dharmic way. Then only he will be in a position to evolve himself and go into vanaprastha, go into sannyasa, or go into evolution. This is the process. So it all starts from the kartavya. From the childhood, for each one there is a kartavya. For a student, his kartavya is to study well. For another person, the kartavya is to execute his jobs well, working well, earning his money in the right manner, spending the right money in the right manner. See, not that somebody has got enough plenty. People who are spending money lavishly without any thinking There's so many unwanted things they do because they earn it in a wrong way. So there is no importance for the money. If you earn it in the right manner, you will have importance for that. If you study your books in a hard way, writing an examination and pass out, you'll have definite values for that, plus your knowledge is increased. Somebody who is passing out an exam through back door, some way or other, he neither have the benefit of the knowledge, nor he will appreciate that knowledge. That appreciation will not be there, and the knowledge will not be there. The one who has put all efforts to study and then pass, he will have values for that, plus his knowledge is very high. That's why I said. So when he did his sacrifice for executing his kartavya, he enjoyed it much more at a later date. See? And values. When you have values for whatever you are doing and whatever you have done, if you have done your kartavya in the right manner, you will have immense satisfaction and peace, which gives you non-agitative status, plus you will also be fulfilling the kartavya completely, so that you don't have to repeat it. Haphazardly or with a hesitant mood, if somebody does a kartavya, it will be wrong and they have to repeat it again. So that repetition keeps on going. Number of lifetimes it goes on sometimes. So these are basically one has to understand. You may be thinking, what is the connection between executing a kartavya and karma and listening to Vedanta? Eligibility to listen to Vedanta. What is the connection? As I told you in the beginning itself, in order to be eligible to do anything, you require all these things. Even to lead your life, you need everything. Especially when you want to understand the principles, tattvas of life. They are not giving you immediate material benefits. By learning an Upanishad, you are not getting any material benefit out of it. Material, bhautik, sukha. What are you gaining? The absolute knowledge of the self-realization. That's why I said it is meant for those who are definitely meant for those who are wanting to walk in the spiritual path. For others, they may not give so much of importance to this, but for others, also it is necessary for them to execute the bhautika jivan or executing the materialistic life. For them also certain discipline is required. Whom we call as most indisciplined person, he also requires a discipline to be indisciplined. To be there is a discipline required to become indisciplined. For that also discipline is necessary. For everything there is this discipline is necessary. So that is why we call it as eligibility for Vedanic studies. So for eligibility for this, all these are required. That is why you will find people who take sannyasa at our time. Either when they are in the brahmacharyatva, they take sannyasa, or when they have fulfilled their kartavyas, they take. Normally, even the brahmacharyatva, during the brahmacharyatva, one whom they select is that only seeing that he doesn't have any more kartavyas to be executed in his life, he will only be selected for that. It is not an escapism, that one can just go and take sannyasa whenever you don't feel like living in the bhautik jivan or materialistic life. That is not possible. That's not sannyasa. You have to fulfill. That's why Bhagavan told Arjuna that you have to fulfill your kartavya. Then only your kartavya and karma, then only you can go into the sannyasa marga. Then only it is possible. Otherwise, what happens? There is a mamatvam in that. That's why I said the word nirmamatvam I used. Otherwise, what happens? When you want to escape from your kartavya and karma, then take sannyasa, there is a mamatvam in that. What is that mamatvam? That I do not want to do all these things, I want to. There is a personal requirement there. In that personal requirement, the sannyasa is not acceptable. That is not sannyasa. In Satyanveshana, all these are backlogs have to be cleared. then only it is you are in a position to attain the spirituality or the true spirituality, absolute self-realization. But there are certain excuses where certain things are there. That is in detail when we discuss sannyasa, we will talk about it. It is too early to something to discuss now. So what we said about that certain sacrifices are necessary, and dharmic way of executing kartavyas and karmas with true non-agitative status. In everything there has to be a strict balance. I think almost all the houses, the mothers must be telling the same thing which my mother also has told me. Everyone, you all must have, everybody must have told. But we don't give much reverence to that. Today when you think back, you see it's a Vedantic view. Because when you have siblings, there will be a lot of fights and misunderstandings. For us, me also the same thing was there. The ultimate judge is who? Mother. All the complaints will go to mother. See, she is telling like this, she is doing like that, he is doing like that, he is doing. Sometimes she thinks that it's all children, so naturally there will be silly things. A lot of silly things are there. So if she finds there is no much of reason to be intervened on that, she will say that listen from here and leave from here. I think it's a common word used by almost every household. Listen from here and leave it from there. Forget about it. What is that? Sacrifice. Your ego satisfaction should be sacrificed in order to keep a balance to it. So you just it is not suppression, it is just ignore that. That means you sacrifice, it's ignoring is what? You sacrifice your ego satisfaction so you can maintain a peace around that. And your evolution is what happens? How is your evolution taking place in that small thing, listening from here and taking out from here? You do not get involved into a fight. By that, you do not get an agitative status of mind. By not getting an agitative status of mind, that means keeping a non-agitative status of mind, you have fulfilled one kartavya by that. And you have achieved one karma by that. One renunciation has taken place. You grew up one step above in your evolution. Can you imagine this? By a small activity, by a small act of yours, you have evolved yourself from here to there, little bit above. This is why, even though it may appear to be just avoiding you, or it may appear to be a temporary solution mother is making, but it has got a great Vedantic principle behind it. That means you are evolving one step above. This, what happens, few times this happens, you get to know that which are the things to be taken to mother, which are not to be taken. Automatically what happens, all those which are not to be taken, you en masse, you delete it from your activity, from your kartavya, your evolution of karma. Through karma, you have evolved much above. You want to see the benefit of it. If this continues, you will reach that absolute non-agitative status. A simple process everywhere. In every activity. That what is not necessary, do not accept it. Is what hearing from here, going out. It's not only one small word. It applies to all activities, not only listening. That what is necessary, only you accept it. That what is not necessary for you, do not accept it. Just throw it away. Just keep it away, so that you will be executing your kartavya in the right manner. You will be executing your karma in nirmamatva status plus non-agitative status, where an evolution takes place. You see, a small thing colloquially described, which neither probably the advisor or the advised both may not be fully aware of the details of the advice, but how much of benefit it happens takes place in a human being's life if that is taken really seriously. We don't take it seriously, we have never taken it seriously. Or just to avoid saving time, this has been told. So we always, sometimes we blame mother, sometimes we blame ourselves or others, and then we retire and again repeat the same thing because we have not understood the meaning of it, because nobody made us understand. If you understand this, today I am telling you that even small things that what we are going through in our life, if we can avoid those which are not necessary for us, we keep away from us, what happens? Most 90% of our agitation are because of acceptance of unwanted things, acceptance of not necessary, unwanted things, unnecessary things we call it. Okay, that what is not necessary. What is necessary? That which makes you, gives you a non-agitative status of mind is only necessary. Whatever good it may be, if that is giving you agitation, it's not necessary for you and it's not good for you. What's the use? Taking on some, we also tell, taking all these troubles, what is the use at last? We talk like that. No? Absolutely right. This is what it is. This, if you can understand it before, well before, you will avoid your non-agitative status and you will be in a position to stay there. This is called the meditative status, the power of discrimination. What is meditation brings? The meditations, what is the result of meditation? That brings the power of discrimination. When, that's called, so when you understand all these small advices, you see, very colloquially spoken and told, as I told you, listen from here and throw from here out. You see how big a word it is, you know. An Upanishad it is, complete Upanishad. That means being, it indicates that nirmamatvam, it indicates execution of karmas and fulfilling the requirement, exhausting the karma and bringing non-agitative status of mind to you as well as to the situation and others. This brings you evolution for one step above the status. You are already in the status of meditation then, if you can understand. See, is it small or big advice? The biggest advice, you see. This is what one should understand. This is how you should execute your kartavya. When we do execute our kartavyas like this, that what is not necessary, if we can avoid it and just leave it aside. Most of the people you will find, they are involved in the most unwanted things 90% of their time. No? You remember in our past life regression there was a notice made by us. Do not speak. If at all you want to speak, only speak about yourself. You may not be remembering, but I do remember because I have made it. Speak only about you. And you start speaking only about it. Most of the time what happened, most of the people, 99%, 95% of the time of the people are spent I leave it to you to fill up the blanks. So, acquiring, attaining the non-agitative status of mind in order to execute your kartavyas. So, sacrifice. Sacrifice is not that you are leaving away something. Sacrifice is only a shift of your requirement or your necessity for some other time. It's a sacrifice. Most of the sacrifices. Certain things maybe we have to give up. Okay. If we can give it up also, that what we are giving up is of, it's okay, no use to me. Why not I give it up? Even if I use it. It's alright, fine. There are so many things one can do. But doesn't mean that you should be unhappy and do it. No. That should not be. That's not sacrifice. It's not that you be unhappy and do something. That is mamatvam. That's not nirmamatvam. Nirmamatvam, that you do not get disturbed or unhappy by doing that, should be that. Otherwise you should not do it. You should not do it. Forget it. Not that everywhere, every time that we have to only do for others. It is not that. No, don't think otherwise. Not necessary at all. As I told you last time also. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your Atma Samman, we call it. You have to take care of your Atma Samman, your Atma Gati, your life in order to execute your karma. These all have to be seen. To that extent only, one can accept. There is a very, very wrong, very bad proverb in we used to say in our language. It is there, but you can understand the meaning of it. That is, it doesn't happen, but is. When it is hot, the baby is under the feet. It's a proverb. The explanation is that, suppose when a mother has to carry a baby and walk on the hot sand for long hours, when it starts making boils under the feet of this one, she will put the baby down and stand on that, is what the proverb. I mean, doesn't happen. It is in the sense that to that extent you can do it, but when it happens to your, no, you have to save yourself first. Atmagatam is very important. This is the proverb. That proverb, but of course we did not understand the meaning of it in the beginning. How can the mother can put the child? In the sense it's not physically happening, but the intensity of the requirement of the protection of the self, or the intensity of the sacrifice one can do, has been specified there. It's all in the practical way of Bhautika Jivan actually. That is it. So, what I am trying to impress upon you is that you are important. Your safeguard is important. Why? Because you are born in order to execute your karmas. So you have to execute it. By committing a suicide, you are not fulfilling your karmas. You will have to repeat it again in the next janmas. So what happens in this janma? So to that extent only, you will be extending, stretching yourself. That's why I told some time back that to the breaking point, elastic should be stretched only to it should not break. You can elastic is meant for stretching it to its maximum. So stretch it to your maximum and leave it. Rest you have to do it yourself. See, this is kartavya. In kartavya. Because that itself is good enough. Actually, it doesn't require more than that, because it's meant for all the samuha, people around you, things around you, and environment around you, and situation around you, is that kartavya comes. Then comes the karma. As I told you, karma, in karma there is only one or two sentences to say. As we said, it should give peace to your mind. That means it should give you, any karma that you execute should give you a non-agitative status. There should not be anything, oh, I have left behind something, or I should have done it like this, or I should have done like that. That should not happen. That's called a karma. That means exhausting the karma. That's why we always used our Upanishad classes, exhausting the karma. That means a karma that is to be executed should be executed and forgotten about it. We should be in a position to forget about it. Should be in a position to forget about it, in the sense we should do it in such a dharmic way that it doesn't create any karma phalas to me. That means which creates an agitations to me. Agitations will happen when I have an expectation from that karma. And if that doesn't happen, I am disappointed. If it happens, I am too excited and happy about it. Both are not right. We have to exhaust the karma as it is. There also, nirmamatvam has to be done. How can it happen? Only by the way of nirmamatvam, only the exhausting of karma can be done. By if I want to derive some benefit out of it, then it doesn't become nirmamatvam, it becomes mamatvam. Or then the deriving, exhausting the karmas doesn't take place. So they said nishkama karma. They said nirmamatvam is what? Nishkama karma. The same thing. Both means to the same. Nirmamatvam and nishkama both means to the same. So nishkama karma. Execute a nishkama karma. Karma itself is meant for evolution of yourself. That's karma. So don't mix up with kartavya and karma. For uplifting yourself, that means what? Your character should be good. Your mind should be clear. You should not be expressing something and thinking something and doing something else. There are people who does it in three different ways. He thinks one way, he speaks another way, he does it in a different way, out of these ways. So there are, in Vyavaharika Jivan it happens. That is not completing the karmas. Exhausting the karmas should create non-agitative status. That means the peace should be there. Because whatever you have done against your thoughts, it will always prick you. I did not do right, I did not do right. The guilt will remain in you. The guilt should not be there after executing a karma. If a karma leaves guilt in you, that means mamatvam was there. But there are some people say that they do wrong things and say that, I don't have any guilt, I have done what I thought. Right. It's also not right. Whatever you thought is not right, whatever you thinking should be right. Then only you cannot justify that what you thought was right. That thought has to be analyzed, whether it is right or wrong. That's why this happens to many great people. That's why so many Puranas, so many Upanishads, why they had to write all this? Because of Ravana, Kamsa and such people who are again reincarnations. They commit mistakes and they commit sin and they get Papa Moksha by doing this. So in order to do that, it's all this one. So the same manner, we should be careful. We should be careful in order to, I repeat, in order to exhaust our karmas while executing them and after executing them. Nothing should remain balance in that. Karma bhala is the one which makes us take again a rebirth. What is karma bhala? Karma bhala is that an expectation from that, a desire from that, an enjoyment from that is that what he is talking about. Pleasures will come, you enjoy it, no problem. Do not expect that pleasure and enjoy that pleasure. That's what he says. So otherwise, while walking in our path, it's not that something good is there to eat, we will not eat. Oh, no. Not necessary. Something good is there. If there is a good movie, you can definitely see, why not? If there is a dance, good dance, you can see. That should not create an agitation in your mind, should not an expectation for a future to have the same thing. So while walking on the path, this I have explained long back. As a child, when you are sent to I told small examples. A child sent to a shop to buy something by your mother. On the way you will find somebody's a small circus, somebody tightrope walking must be going on, somebody must be doing some magic, small magic, somebody selling that, what is it, sweet, like a cotton?
A candy floss.
Candy floss. So, all these things will be there on the way. Enjoy it, no problem. But you just reach there and buy the thing and come back, But what happens, human being? He gets entangled into circus, entangled into tightrope walking, entangled into candy floss eating, and then forgets about going to the shop and buying it, coming back. Karma is forgotten. It's the small example I used to tell that, which gives enough indication that how one should do it. So while living in our life, there are a lot of things which you should enjoy. There's nothing wrong, it's okay. You are seeing it, there is a garden, beautiful flower, There is a beautiful mountain, sea, there is a beautiful, so many things, enjoy it, no, see it and enjoy it. That should not create an agitation in your mind, and that also should not create an expectation in your mind. Some people get disappointed after going for holidays to a beautiful place and come back to his house. Now naturally his house is not that beautiful as that 5-star hotel and that place around. No, so he will say that, Dekha, what is this, my house, and what is that place? I wish I could stay here. Almost all of us must have told this. I wish we could stay there. No? You do not know if you could stay there. If you stayed there, what are the problems you will have, first of all. Second is that this is called, leaving aside all other things, whatever happens, maybe good, maybe bad, whatever it is. But what is that? That is what is called the expectation. That's called the vasana. This vasana is the one which makes you, this is called enjoying the karma phala. This is what is called enjoying the karma phala, which makes you take rebirth. You see it, nobody is objecting to that. Enjoy it. Have a good time in holiday. Come back. Forgot that holiday is over, here it is there. This is different, that is different. This is meant for different purpose, that is meant for different purpose. That was meant for relaxation, you relaxed. Sleeping is wonderful, no doubt about it. I think nobody will say sleeping is not wonderful. Lying down and sleep for a while, everybody will enjoy it. Thinking that that is enjoyable, can you sleep all the 24 hours? Or should you? Should not. No. That's also not. Sleep. Sleep at that time. Nobody objects. That is a time provided by the Prakriti for you to sleep. At that time you sleep. The other time you are supposed to be awake. That's the time you have to be awake. So if you violate these nature, principles of nature, it's called adharma. Not only in the nature, in our pravritti, in our execution of karmas, in our jobs, in our thinking, in our thoughts also. If I violate this prakriti niyama, I am violating the dharma. That's it. This is called dharma. Prakriti niyama. Follow that which, what is prakriti niyama? The nature. The natural instinct of you. The natural self of you should be. The antaratma is no peace loving. It has only peace, it has only knowledge, it has only been non-agitative status. This is called the antaratma or jivatma. That is your character, that is your nature. That's called the swabhava. So when you are in the swabhava, you are absolutely fine, you are evolving yourself. When you are against your swabhava, contradictory to your swabhava, you are creating karma phalas and will have to take a rebirth in order to. There was something about I don't know whether it is useful here. Where it was I put. Purva Mimamsa, what I have just noted down certain notes from somewhere here and there. Purva Mimamsa of Veda is based on Dharma, which is in the Uttara Mimamsa, it has been, as I told you, Uttara Mimamsa it has been described as Brahman. So, Dharma and Brahman, attaining Brahman and attaining Dharma. This is it. Dharma, Rakshati, Rakshita. The same dharma has been explained as Brahman and the Brahman in the Uttara Mimamsa. The true mukti or moksha is dharma. To attain mukti or moksha, one should have viveka, power of discrimination is necessary. We have described about power of discrimination. To identify and get liberated from the indriyas and mana. Using the Indriyas and Mana only, one can know how to overcome their influence in our life. One should have Jnanam in order to understand and eliminate Ajnanam. Similarly, through Dvandvam, only we can lead ourselves to Advaitam. Dvaita experiences are all well explained in the Mahabharatam by Bhagavan Vedavyasa. We have described about the Satyavati's Dharmam and Adharmam. I think yesterday. Satyavati, whatever thought that it is Dharmam, she is doing her Kartavya in the right manner, in protecting her sons and depriving Bhishma to do something. She ultimately landed up in executing the wrong Kartavya and wrong Dharma, because of which one Kula has been destroyed. She is responsible for that, acting adharmically, and she had to suffer for that actually, seeing all these calamities in presence of her eyes only. Everything has been destroyed, shammed into ashes. So this is something about Dharma, and again something else was there. Anyway, everything is explaining about what can Adharma do and what can Dharma do. From that we have to derive what is Dharma. Like Brahman. Brahman cannot be explained by the words, simple words. This inference has to be drawn in order to understand the Brahman. Same way, Dharma is also like that. An inference has to be drawn from all these examples what I spoke. That only explanation in one sentence can be given. That which is necessary for your evolution in the right manner is called Dharma. And according to suit that Dharma, one has to execute it. Everybody has a Dharma. Raja Dharma is there. Pitra Dharma is there. Putra Dharma is there. Pati Dharma, Patni Dharma. Acharya Dharma, Guru Dharma, Shishya Dharma, Sevak Dharma. Each one has their own Dharma. That is known as Swadharma, individual Dharmas. They are also Paryaya of the Dharma, nothing other than different from the Dharma. But it has been individualized depending upon the nature of karma that he is supposed to do. A Sevak cannot do a Raja Dharma. It will be a waste, you see, it's not necessary. A Sevak has to do his Dharma, the Seva that we have to do. Seva has to be done sincerely, honestly, and to the satisfaction of both to whom the Seva is done and the Seva, to one who does the Seva. And during the Seva, he will not deviate from the path of the honesty, sincerity and dedication and devotion. These are all the Sevak Dharma. And that seva has to be. Any paritosha or any reward for that is acceptable. Nothing wrong. Reward can be accepted. For a sevak, reward can be accepted. Nothing wrong. But he should not expect a reward and do the seva. The sevak. That's called seva dharma. Doing seva to many ashrams, many gurus and things like that. Like that, Guru Dharma is there. Like that, Raja Dharma is there. Pitra Dharma, Putra Dharma, like that each individual, according to that, they have to do it. Same thing has been transcribed in detail. When you go into Purana, you will find Brahmana Dharmam, Kshatriya Dharmam, Vaishya Dharmam, Shudra Dharmam is also. According to Varnas. Varna means again, according to their own profession, this Dharma is applicable. A Raja is eligible to kill an enemy who is coming to destroy his country or his countrymen. He is supposed to protect his countrymen. For that, if necessary, even murder is accepted as a karma. Okay? So, same way, same manner, Brahmana Dharma is different. That's why Brahmanas are supposed to be doing this. Kshatriyas are supposed to be doing this because a division has been made in order to make a healthy society, actually. Not that everybody will do Rajadharma, everybody will do Brahmana Dharma. What will happen? There will be a confusion, So they have divided the karmas based on Varnas. That creation of Varnas are meant for a particular purpose. And today it has become a problem. That's it. Today, in fact, Brahmana does the Vaishya Dharma and Shudra Dharma. But the Kshatriya does the Vaishya Dharma. Kshatriya does some other Dharma. It has become a mixture. They said that, integrity. Beautiful word has been invented. Integrity is not meant for all the things. There are certain things where integrity is necessary. Well, all the integrity will happen only at a state where an individual dharma has been executed, then integrity takes place. Everyone, according to dharma, when it is provided, integrated position is that attaining the Brahman is an integrity. We'll come to that. The integration or integrity is that. Well, that's a different chapter altogether. I am not going into that you understand what I mean. I just hinted that. So, dharma, as again, I repeat the dharma, because even when it comes to us, let us discuss this. Listening to an Upanishad is a dharma, not a karma. Not a kartavya. It is a karma, it is a dharma. No, it is a karma. Karma executing dharmically. That means listening to Atma Tattvam and Atma Jnanam, Brahma Tattvam, Brahma Jnanam reveals my reality, reveals my position of birth and death, reveals me what are supposed to be done, what is right and what is wrong, teaches me to have the power of discrimination of my mind, how make me identify that how I am attracted to unwanted things, making me understand about the Kama, Krodha, Loba, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Yes, all those things may make them understand, and then make me identify that what absolutely is necessary for executing my living of Bhautika Jivan, and also what I should do for my, ultimately, what I should do for my execution of my karma, and then getting the liberation or kaivalya, what is necessary. Throughout the process, while executing the kartavyas, you have to do your karmas also. If I divide them into two, so that along with that, you cannot say that, I have so much of work to do, so there is no time for me to pray. So there is no time. There are so many people used to come and tell me that when we take our classes and all that. No time. Suppose I give him, God gives him, suppose God gives him 1 more hour in a day. Will he come and attend? Why to blame the time? Samaya. What is time again? Again, it is a fiction, it's illusion. It is illusion as far as the way the Vedanta is concerned. The time and space is concerned only about for the Jivatma. That's all. If that kartavya and karma is exhausted, is dharmically, there is no time, there is no space. Just do your karmas properly, there is no time. I should have done it yesterday, I should have done it tomorrow. Nothing will be there. The time and space is only for Bhautika Jivan, and also it is related to the one who is concerning and conscious about the Sharira and Mana. When you are not concerned with the mind and Sharira, or when you are conscious that your mind and Sharira is not the you for executing the karmas, your time and space is no more for you. Nothing is there. How you may think about a small example. Is there a time for evolution? how many hours it takes for a man to get Kaivalya? Or how many years? How many days? How many nights and how many meditations one has to do? What all kinds of meditation do you do? Which all gurus you have to go? Which all ashrams you have to stay in order to get liberation? Time, space. Okay. If you ask this, there is time and space. That means your logical mind and Sharira wanting all the answers for this. But what is Kaivalya? When will you get the enlightenment? When do you get how do you get the enlightenment, and how and when and how long it takes for getting enlightenment? Ksanamatram, they said. That's all. Just crossing the line. Within a fraction of what we call normally in the language, within a fraction of a second, not even fraction, the number of fractions. Kshanamapram, they said. That's all what is required for enlightenment. And the moment enlightenment is done, happened, time and space. How much time it took? How long will it take? 100 years, 1,000 years. It may be few lakhs of years. You don't know. How many janmas? Number of janmas. Or not even one janma. Any. That's all. That's it. How many meditations you have to do? One meditation is good enough. One time meditation is good enough, or thousands of meditations you do. No use, no? Every time you see the same thing. It's called the liberation through karma. It's called dharmically executing karma. Dharma is that which affects, which makes you evolve yourself into the evolution, the liberation. That means traveling towards the Brahman, that's called the traveling towards the spiritual path, towards Brahman. This is called Dharma. A Swatantra Bhava, that means no entanglements. What is Dharma? There should be no entanglements in execution of your Dharma, karma. In a karma, if there are obstacles, that is not a true karma. There is something wrong you are doing. When you are executing your right karma, there will be no entanglements. Even if that entanglements are there, you will be able to do it perfectly fine and well. There won't be any problem. There is a proverb in our country, and especially among the Hindus, when you start building a temple by even a poor man, somehow or other the finances will come, help will come, this will come, and temple will be completed. You got my point? This is called karma. That's all. For the evolution. So, a good karma, that you are executing a karma for evolution, even with thousands of obstacles around, nothing will happen. It will go smoothly. You keep on. This is called non-agitative status. When it happens, when temple building here, it's not for a personal benefit. There is nirmamatvam in that. Nishkama karma, it is that meant for through the devotion and dedication. There is no selfishness in that. So, this is called dharma. You got my point? This is how a karma has to be executed, so that seva to the guru, seva to the jnanam, seva to the devata. That means your own the senses. We told you in the Grihastha Ashram that Pancha Karma has to be done, which are the Pancha Agni and Pancha Karma, which has to be done. That is how there are so many methods. They have told thousands of all the methods are only leading you towards that, how to execute your karmas dharmically. So when you execute your karma, have you got the idea of dharma? No. Karma and dharma. Karma can be kartavya, karma need not be kartavya. It can be kartavya, it need not be kartavya. So there is a flexibility in that karma, because very hairline difference, so sometimes we ourselves won't be. A person who cannot discriminate exactly this is it's like karma. There is a mixture of it sometimes, but there are certain distincts, as I told you now, whatever I could understand and whatever I have to tell. I told you all this while what is called a kartavya. I think this is good enough for us to understand this much karma. Okay? So execute your karma dharmically. Once you execute your karma dharmically, then only you are eligible to listen to Vedanta. Why? What is the necessity? What is the connection? As I told you sometime back, connection between this executing my karma dharmically and listening the Upanishad dharmically. What is it? The mind is at the right focus. That means non-agitative. Again, further clarification on that. The mind is at the right focus of understanding, realizing, perceiving, contemplating, accepting and transforming for the purpose of liberation. Is why this is listening to this. This when you do dharmically, your mind and your indriyas and your sharira will get automatically, as I told you, when you repeat a karma repeatedly and when you have a practice of doing karma dharmically, the dharmam exists in you. Dharmo rakshati rakshita. The one who executes the karmas dharmically, that dharmam will save you to be in dharmam at all times. That means you get habituated of doing only dharmically, everything dharmically. When you habituated doing things dharmically, and when you execute your kartavyas dharmically, karmas dharmically, the mind is absolutely not attached or attracted or associated with anything other than the dharma. So when it is in dharmam, what happens? That whatever you have done, you are not expecting anything from that. You do not have any desire out of it, then only the mind will be occupied there. I am not expecting anything. I do not want anything. I do not have a desire. And I have not done, whether done or not. In Hindi, there is a proverb, if I remember correct, if I could tell that properly. Neki ka dariya mein dal.
Neki ka dariya mein.
Got it? Simple. Beautiful it is. Do something good. So what I did was good or right, God or good or bad, right or wrong, this, that, no discussions on the mind. Mind is totally focused on that. Why mind is focused on that? Mind is on the path of the dharmam, and in that dharmam says that dharmo rakshati rakshata. I have to be in dharmam. I am in dharmam. I have been executing my karmas in dharma. I don't have any attachment towards that, what I have done 5 minutes back. I do not have any attraction towards that. I don't have a desire to do that. I don't have any vasana out of it created to me. So my mind is totally focused on Atma Tattvam, Dhamma Jnanam, which is ultimately taking me to the total evolution, total Jnanam by realization of the self. Is why one has to be practicing all this. Make your mind and make your indriyas palatable to this so that your mind will be focused on listening. Then your interest in listening and your being, you are perceiving, not listening actually, you are perceiving them. You are just grahyate. It's not only through the ears, the whole thing is evolving in you. It's not actually, this tattva, atma tattvas are not just only listened or understood or contemplated or remembered or don't have to remember. It changes your cells of the brain. It changes your cells of the body. It changes your characteristics. A few times, number of times, people who attend satsanga even for saptam and all 7 days and all that, you will find a change in them for another 1 or 2 days. After saptam, 2-3 days. After 3 days. Till next saptam, things like that. But 2-3 days, they will be talking about it, they will be thinking about it, every time they will say to the children, to the others in the house, no, 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 in Bhagavatam it is told it should be done like this, in Bhagavatam it is told it should be done like that. I know this all, they will be talking. After 3 days, Bhagavatam safely inside the cupboard and also safely into the hands of Maya. Is why we should understand, you understood, why should I do the karma, kartavya, and understand dharma and karma? Making me to, otherwise your many people say that I don't get concentration. Many people, he also, including him and somebody else who was sitting here, another person, when I was doing, talking even for 1.5 hours, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 1.5 hours talk was there. Even during the talk of the Brahma Tattva Jnanam, their system went into sleep. Not acceptable. Why? Because of the practice is not there. Focusing is not there. Why? The necessity is not there. Who will focus? I am not blaming anybody. Their necessities are different. It's perfectly fine. Nobody has to insist upon, in fact. And not that the whole world has to take sannyasa. No, that also is not there. But the people who would like to have liberation, people who would like to execute their karma in dharmically, people who would like to execute their karma in the right manner, when they do this, what happens? They would like to have the kaivalya. They don't want to stretch it too long unnecessarily. When it comes to that, for them, their focusing is necessary. For them, the concentration, focusing, interest, as we say, time. We say sometimes, time ka pata hi nahi chala. Why? Why? Time was there. Why didn't you? Because you are not connected with the time. You see? You don't need time. You understood now? You don't need time. The one who is focusing on the Brahma Tattva, Brahmajnana, concentrating. Anywhere you are concentrating, even in a movie, you won't know the time gone. You see how fast the time went. Wherever you focus yourself, that means when you focus on something which you are interested in, then the time is not there. The time is there only where it is not interesting. This is why I say time and space. Time and space. Where are you sitting and what time did you sit? How much time did you spend? Oh, I never realized. We were sitting in this place. We were sitting, we were listening. Things like that. So this status has to come to listen to Vedantic studies, is what I am saying. One should not feel it is a burden or it is a forceful act that is being imposed on me. Then it is boring. Then one has to sleep, no doubt. Better to sleep than listening to what is not wanted. See, that what is wanted means focused on that. That means your requirement is there. There's a small word again that has been told by me and by Shastras, by Vedas. I have repeated that, not I told. I have repeated that number of times, is that when a disciple has thirst for hunger, then it comes to you. This is called the thirst. When you have real thirst for that, then your focusing is better because you need it. That's all what you need it, nothing else. We go to temple, hold our hands and close our eyes, just praying to the God. Whatever happens, nothing is my botheration. There's a concentration on that. That means a concentration is a division of the focus. That means mentally, concentration is when the mind is not active in the other things. It's called the concentration. Or the mind is in only one thing. That's called the concentration. Here, what happens? The mind is in nothing. What is the difference? We are not listening to this, and that means there is something, maybe our argument. Where mind is not, where mind is only in one thing, that's concentration. But whereas dharmically perceiving the jnanam, Brahma jnanam, from the Guru, from the Shastras, from the Shruti, when we are perceiving it, it is not concentration. It's what? it's evolution, it is dharma, it is focusing. What's the difference between that? There what happens? A concentration is there, there is a mamatvam is there. It is not a nishkama bhakti. That is sakama bhakti. There I would like to see the Bhagavan. Okay, forget about what I require or what I want, asking for things and all that. Forget about it. Even if a man is not asking for something, he says that I would like Bhagavan, hey Ishwar, I want to see. There is a sakama bhakti. Here what happens? That's why I said, not listening, but perceiving. That means not using one indriya or all indriyas to focus, even though all indriyas are automatically getting focused in order to listen. But I am not intentionally focusing indriyas in order to do that. The requirement of me, because my practice of dharmam, my mind and indriyas got habituated in functioning in dharmam, so the focus of the tattva, Brahma Tattvam, Brahma Jnanam, Atma Tattvam automatically takes place where not only one indriya, not only the indriyas, not only the mana, not only the intellect, but the antaratma is in the focus of that, because it relates with the swabhava of the individual. It has to relate with the swabhava of the individual. That means Atma Tattvam is my prime importance of everything. When something relates to that, what happens? Nothing is there, no focusing, no attention is there, no concentration is there, but absolute perceiving is there, perception is there. Where there is no focusing means there is a mind which is focusing. Here, even that is not there. It's perceiving, perception. Perception is in the intellectual, intellect, mind, everything is there at that time, but it's not identifying only the mind. Whereas in the concentration, only the mind is there. Certain indriyas are also there, but some indriyas may not be there also. That also is possible. So this class, well, that's again a detailed study. One can argue that concentration and focusing is same. Focusing is that to focus on something. Concentration is that on being in one thing. It is that. So after here, what happens? After focusing, then you are merging with that. You are diluting yourself with the Atma Tattva, Atma Jnana. You are not listening, you are getting yourself diluted into the Atma Tattva, Atma Jnana. This is called the listening of the Brahman. That's why they said eligibility. Eligibility is that to dedicate, devote, and then layam should happen. This is called eligibility. If the layam is not there, Upanishad cannot be understood by anybody. Is why somebody says, no, Bhagavad Gita you read for 100 times, 100 meanings are coming. Why? Because they were concentrating, they were focusing, they were understanding, they were analyzing. Another man said, nothing is required. Ekam, everything is that. Just surrender. Layam. There what happens? The dharma and then the perception, perceiving, that means the grahana, grahyam, and the layam takes place. These things should take place in order to understand the Atma Tattva. That's called the Atma Tattva. That is why the preparations of this, at least we should understand that these are the such requirement of basics are necessary. Because it's a tattva which cannot be understood by indriyas, cannot be analyzed by a small mind which is educated and experienced with small bhautika jivan. Can you imagine? Something which is Brahman, which is beyond everything, can it be understood by the limitations? The unlimited cannot be understood by the limited. So in order to understand the unlimited, what you have to do? You have to become the unlimited. To go to the unlimited, the preparation or eligibility is that to be executing your karmas and kartavyas dharmically, so that you become ready for traveling towards that layam or dedication and devotion. This is called upasana. Next will be immense. Purity of mind. That's the next subject we will be taking. Next class. Oh.